Hi, gang, and welcome to week 7 of Qualitative Research Methods for spring 2019. Got a couple of housekeeping items I want to go over with you real quickly, and then we'll get into the next research methods, okay? First of all, your first journal article was due journal article review was due this past Sunday. I'm looking forward to reading those. I'm going to be kind of lenient on my grading because my instructions apparently were a little bit confusing with that. So, for the next two, you have two more that you're also to do. Um, you can either pick an article from the back of your textbook that relates to the subjects of that week, or you can pick a journal article that is of interest to you in your area of study. So if you're working on a research project and you found an article that relates to one of those approaches to qualitative research and you want to use that, that's fine. But if you don't find one, or you can't find one, or you haven't started looking yet, if you want to use one of the research articles from the back of your textbook, you are more than welcome to do that. Also, do practice good APA format with these on Blackboard under the assignment. I think I put on there that you didn't have to worry about APA formatting, just use single space. I've changed my mind on that. Let's go ahead and keep practicing APA formatting. So that's 12-point Times New Roman, 1-inch margins, double spaced. Okay, you'll play the way you practice. So let's just be practicing with those. Your next journal article review is due Sunday, March 10th, and it's an article that's either a grounded theory or a case study. So choose an article that either uses the grounded theory, which is what we'll be talking about this week, or a case study, which is what we'll be talking about next week. Okay? Also, remember, this coming Sunday, March 3rd, your interview project is due. I know we kind of got into time crunch there, so if anybody's having trouble with that one, please let me know and I'll work with you. Okay, but do try and get it done by Sunday, if not somewhere within that week, because the longer you put it off, the more likely it is it's going to get put on the back burner, and then you're really going to get cramped for getting assignments done. So, March 3rd, interview project is due. All right, before we talk about grounded theory research, I want to offer a little clarification about narrative research and phenomenological research. If you're like me, when I first heard about these, they didn't sound a whole lot different. And even as I was going back and reviewing this time, I was thinking, man, I need to make some clarification on how these two things differ, because so much of what they said sounded similar. So, I came up with a few points, and let me see if I can, if you're like me and you're having trouble differentiating, well, what's a narrative versus what's phenomenological, because it seems like you're coming up with themes and ideas from both of them. Let me see if I can clarify that for you, okay? In a narrative, you're going to use one subject or a few specific subjects that have shared a similar experience. So, for example, you might talk to competitors at the 2018 World Cup. You might talk to the astronauts who flew the Apollo 18. You know, you only have a few of those guys that were a part of that. Or you might talk to one individual person about their experience. Phenomenological study, you're talking to several people who have shared a similar experience. Maybe not the same, but have shared a similar experience. So runners, you know, who just run. Why do they run? What do they get out of it? First generation college students, people who have shared a similar experience, but not exactly the same one. Okay, so there's one difference. In a narrative, your data is going to come from interviews and from document analysis. You know, if it's, you're going to do a lot of interviewing of individuals for a narrative analysis, but if it's, you're doing an analysis of somebody who has passed on, you know, you're going to have to use document analysis, letters, histories, biographies that were written about that person, maybe interviewing some people, some historians who have done a lot of research on that person. Okay, so that's for a narrative. For phenomenological, your data is going to come primarily from doing interviews and observations. Now, you may do some document analysis there, you may do some observation and narrative, but in a narrative, it's primarily going to come from interviews and document analysis. For phenomenological, narratives, and observation. Okay? Your final result is usually going to be placed in chronological order in a narrative. You're going to give us a chronological story. You're going to tell us their story, perhaps how they evolved into the person they became, perhaps how they went through their education and their experiences and their background to become who they are, to tell their story. In a phenomenological research, you're looking for themes that are going to help us decipher the why some phenomenon has happened, what is happening, or what was experienced, or how it was experienced. So that's the route you're going to go. Okay. And then just one final note: think about with a narrative, If you've ever read a biography or if you've ever watched a documentary about an individual, that's a narrative. Okay, you're telling that person's story or that group of people their story and how they got how they shared that one similar experience versus a phenomenological study where we're doing a little more interpretation and trying to come up with some ideas, maybe used in critical theory where we're trying to solve a problem or something like that. Okay, hopefully that clarifies some of this for you. And that brings us to the grounded theory research. Now, so often in our research, we begin and we couch our research with a theory. We're looking through a theoretical lens, which begs the question, well, how did we come up with a theory? Through grounded theory research. Grounded theory research, where we usually will start with a general assumption or theory and work our way down to specific examples and see if they match the theory or if they support the theory. We're just flipping that backwards. We're going to take some specific examples, things we've observed, things we've witnessed, and we might come up with a hunch. And we might see if we could test that. And then we'll come up with another hunch and see if that matches up. And then another hunch. And the more of these hunches we get together and the more of these specific things that we see that seem to be familiar and similar, we put those together, we develop our research, and that's how we come up with grounded theory. So we might have a hunch about something, say, how people settle conflicts in a given situation, or how managers lead through an innovation and a change. We want to look at several specific examples of that and see if we can come up with a theory of how that works. And that's the essence of grounded theory research. All right, so hopefully that gives you a little preface to grounded theory and what you're going to be learning about this week. This week, look at pages 82 through 90 in your textbook. They focus on the grounded theory research. And then watch the class video dealing with grounded theory, the class where I lectured and talked about grounded theory, and we had some discussion in the classroom. Okay, finish your interview project, and beyond that, have a great week.